welcome to another video on Leet code coding series. So in this video we're gonna talk about another problem, that is merge sorted array. Okay, so what are the problem statement? So we have given two arrays nums1 and nums2, and we have to merge these two arrays into non-decreasing order. Okay, so it is also in non-decreasing order already. Also there is a condition that the nums1 array size is not actual size. Okay, it is the size of nums1 array and the nums2 array. So the size of nums1 array becomes m plus of n, where m is the sorted array. Okay, size of sorted array, and we want to merge these nums2 array like nums1 and nums2 into a same array, that is nums1. Okay, so how can we solve this problem? You can see that uh, so here we have two approach. First one is that we compare from very beginning, like for the first element of nums1 and we compare for the second element of nums2. So if we will find which value is lesser, we will just put that value inside the array and we will increase the index value. Okay, so here one is lesser, so we will put that value inside one in the new array, and we will increase that index, again we compare. But in that approach, we need to take an extra array. Okay, so then it will become costly. So what we will do, we will use the concept like approach, that approach, whether in the same array we can do the following operations. Okay, and if we will go from very from beginning, then it will becomes suppose we shifted the array, then it will become tedious. So what we will do, we will use the same concept, but we have changed little bit our approach. So what is that, we go from right to left. Okay, so why from right to left? Because it is easy to insert and delete element at the last index of an array. We don't need to change the array. Okay, so why? And also we will change the approach that here we will put the value inside the array which is higher, and we will decrease the index of that array. Okay, so I'm just gonna write the index. So here I'm just gonna write a value, first variable int index. What is that? That is the last actual index of this array nums1, and it is the last okay, last index of the last element, index of the last element. So which is basically amps of plus and minus of 1. Okay, and again we took another variable int I, and which is the last index of first sorted arrays, which is in non-decreasing order, so that is m minus of 1. And another variable, that is int of j, which is equal to the last index of second array, that is int j n minus of 1. So hope you have understood the problem statement, and you are facing, so if you're facing some problems, so just look at this, what we will do. So first thing is that we go from right to left. Okay, and we'll decrease the index. So when we will stop, when we will reach at 0 index. Okay, so for that we will use a while loop and write a condition that I value, that means the array index of first array is still greater than equal to 0, and also we will need to check for the second array. Okay, so for that I used here or operator, and j is greater than equal to 0. That means if this condition becomes false, it will check for the next condition. Okay, so we consider here, if that array ends at 0, and it will again check for the second array. Okay, so right now what we will do, we will simply compare which value is higher. Okay, so we will compare the array elements in nums of one, that is the first array elements and their index I, and we will put that greater value inside the array. So if nums of 2 of j, okay, from this value, then we will put that value inside the array, and we have that array is nums 1 at where at that index nums 1 index is equal to nums of 1. So here you can see that uh, suppose here in that array 1 2 3, if this value is 30 and we compare 30 with 6, we know that 30 is higher, so we will put 30 inside the nums 1 like first array, okay, at index. So right now what we will do, then we will go for the next value. Okay, so we decrease the index, so I minus minus, and also if we will put the element at the last, so we will decrease that value there, so also index minus minus. And what we will do in the else part, opposite of that condition. Okay, that means nums2 is higher, so we will put at index nums2 and j minus minus. Understood? So there basically we will decrease the array index by 1 and we will put that value. Okay, so just look at this actual example where 6 is higher than 3. That means we will put 6 inside the array here at that position or at that index, and we will decrease the second array index by 1, so it will go for 5 and it will again compare with 3. Okay, if that value is higher, we will put that value inside this position. So this is the condition, guys, but here this is not completed yet. Why? Because from this condition you can see that we assume here the first array index becomes 0. Okay, and it will go for check for the second condition. Suppose think that situation, and this is condition is true, I greater than 0, and there we will reach that every time the value is higher than the first value. Okay, so that means j value becomes lesser and it becomes 0. Okay, we decrease the j value by 1 and it becomes 0. So in that case this condition, okay, so and again still we have remaining arrays, then j value become minus 1, so it gives us array index out of bound. Okay, so we have to also consider that condition. So why? Because we already considered that this value becomes false. If that value becomes false, then it will check for this condition, and here we already reached that j value is minus of 1. Okay, so suppose the array example as 1 2 3 and 4 5 6. So here in every case the first value is lesser than the all the three values. Okay, and j becomes minus 1. Okay, so for that we have to write some condition. So what we will do, we will just write a condition that if j value is less than 0. Okay, so that means we only go in the else part if j value is higher, like greater than 0. So we consider like we solve this process, this situation. Okay, and this or condition means if j less than 0, that means j less than 0, we have already reached at the negative position of j, then it will compare nums of I and nums of 2j. So in that case, suppose if j is less than 0, so again we have to also check. Suppose this condition is false. Okay, so if that condition is false, so in the first scenario we handle this situation. Okay, so if j index becomes -1, so and now the second scenario, if this condition is false, then it will check for this condition, and if j less than 0, this condition is false, means j is still greater than 0. Okay, and if this condition is false, then we need to check the next condition. Okay, and here j is greater than 0, and also here we need to ensure that if still I is greater than 0 or not. Okay, so if this condition is false, then we understand that we reach at that index. So why we have to also write the condition that if I value is still greater than 0. Okay, if we will not write that condition, then understand the condition that, okay, so if this condition is true, that means j is less than 0. We consider this condition. So what is that case? It is the case that where we already reached at the index j. Okay, and now we have some remaining values in first array. Okay, so why we already reached at num2 at minus. So so if this condition is true, like j greater than 0 is that, and then we will only go for the second, like for the first array. Okay, and suppose think, if we already reach at -1 of the first array elements, then this condition is true. And here, if this condition is false, suppose j less than 0 is false, that means j is greater than 0. So we have some elements in the second array elements in the second array. So we will check the condition if still I is greater than 0 or not. If still I is greater than 0 or not. If that condition is true, then we compare the value. Okay, if that condition is false, suppose j is greater than 0 and I is less than 0, I becomes 0. That means the first array elements becomes, like first array elements ends, and we will put all the array elements inside the first array. Okay, the second array elements. So here if I is less than 0, suppose this condition is false, that means we only have the remaining elements in second array. Okay, and we reach at -1 index in the first array. So we consider all the scenario here, and right now I'm just gonna run this program. Okay, I'm just gonna submit it. So we just have to focus whether our code becomes okay. So that's very important. So thanks for watching, and if you like the video on like lead code or Java programming, so please do subscribe the channel. And yes, what is the time complexity? So here we iterate each and every element single time. So it's order of m plus order of n. Okay, so that is the actual size of the array.